Hello friends, myself Professor Vinod Desai, working as an assistant professor since 2012. For your batch, I am going to handle a subject called as computer organization. Subject code is 18CS34. So let us understand the syllabus and modules. So here you have total 5 modules. Module number 1 is basic structure of a computer and machine instruction programs. Module 2 is input output organization. Module 3 is about memory system. Module 4 is about arithmetic and arithmetic related operations. Module 5 is about basic processing unit and pipelining. Now let us understand the syllabus and the brief introduction about the modules. So as I told, module 1 is about basic structure of computers and machine instructions and programs. So in this module, as you are going to understand the basic operational concepts, bus structure, performance, processor clock, basic performance equation, clock rate, performance measurement, and in next up of this module is on machine instructions and programs, where we'll study about memory location and addresses, memory operations, instructions and instruction sequencing, addressing modes, assembly language, basic input and output operations, stacks and queues, subroutines, additional instructions, and the encoding of machine instructions. Then second module is about input output organization, where you are going to study about accessing IO devices, that is input output devices, interrupts, interrupt hardware, direct memory access, buses, interface circuits, standard IO interfaces, PCI bus, SCSI bus, and USB. Then third module is about memory system, where you will study the basic concepts of memory, semiconductor RAM memories, then ROM, that is read-only memories, then speed, size, and cost, then about cache memories, mapping functions, replacement algorithms, and performance considerations. Then module 4 is about arithmetic and arithmetic operations, where you will study about numbers, arithmetic operations and characters, addition and subtraction of signed numbers, design of past adders, multiplication of positive numbers, signed operation operand multiplications, past multiplication and integer divisions. Then last module, that is the module 5, is about a basic processing unit, where you'll study about some fundamental concepts, execution of a complete instruction, multiple bus organization, hardwired control, microprogrammed control. The next part of this module is about pipelining, where we'll study the basic concepts of pipelining. So this is about the syllabus and the brief introduction of the modules. This is what the information about textbooks. So here there are two prescribed textbooks. One is Computer Organization by Carl Hemacher. It's a fifth edition, which is a Tata McGraw edition, and one more is the Computer Organization and Embedded Systems by Carl Hemacher, sixth edition, which is again Tata McGraw edition here. So these are what the prescribed textbooks. Either we have to refer the fifth one or sixth one. Both will cover the entire syllabus. And one reference book is there, that is Computer Organization and Architecture by William Stallings. So this is what the information about textbooks and the reference. So today Let me start the very first module, that is about basic structure of computers, machine instructions, and programs. Now, first, let us look at the functional units, which are nothing but the basic functional units of a computer. So, as you know, a computer consists of five functionally independent parts or five basic functional units, which are nothing but the input unit, memory unit, arithmetic and logic unit, output unit, and the control unit, which are clearly shown in this particular figure. Here, the input unit will accept the coded information from the human operators or from the electromechanical devices such as keyboards or from the other computers over the digital communication lines. The information received is either stored in the computer's memory for later reference, or it can be immediately used by the arithmetic and logic circuitry to perform the desired operations. The processing steps are determined by a computer program which is stored in the memory. Finally, the results are sent back to the outside world through the output unit. That is what the display is. All of these actions are coordinated by the control unit. As you can see in this figure, that is in the figure 1.1, there are no connections among the functional units. These connections can be made in several ways, which will be discussed in the later part. We refer to the arithmetic and logic circuitry in conjunction with the main control circuitry, which is nothing but the processor, and the input and output equipment is collectively referred as input output unit or IO unit. If you take a closer look at the information handled by a computer, it is very convenient to categorize this information as instruction or data. Basically, the instructions or the machine instructions, which are nothing but the explicit command that will govern the transfer of information within a computer as well as in between the computer and its IO devices. It will also specify the arithmetic and logical operation to be performed. Here, a list of instructions which will perform a task is known as program. Usually, the program is stored in the computer memory. The processor then fetches the instructions that will make up the program from the memory one after another, and it will perform the desired operations. The computer is completely controlled by stored program, except for the possible external interrupts by the operator or by the IO devices connected to the machine. Then the data. Data are the numbers and they are encoded characters that are used as operands by the instructions. The term data, however, is used to mean any digital information. Within this definition of data, an entire program may be considered as data if it is to be processed by another program. So even a program can also be considered as data if that program is processed by another program. For an example, a task of compiling a high level language, that is nothing but the source program, into a list of machine instruction constitute a machine language program called as object program. So this is also an example for data, that is converting a high level language into machine level language. The source program is the input data to the compiler program, which will translate the source program into a machine level program. So to the compiler, the source program or a high level program is the input data. So compiler will convert that input data into a machine language program. The information handled by a computer must be encoded in a suitable format. Most present day, the hardware employs a digital circuitry that have only two stable states on and off. Each number or character or instruction is encoded as a string of binary digits which are called as bits. Each is having one of the two possible values 0 or 1. Numbers are usually represented in a positional binary notation. Occasionally, the binary coded decimal, that is BCD, you might be knowing. So, this BCD format is employed here, in which each decimal digit is encoded by 4 bits. That is, in BCD format, each decimal digit is encoded by 4 bits. Alphanumeric characters are also expressed in terms of binary codes. Several coding schemes have been developed here. Two of the most widely used schemes are, one is ASCII. ASCII is nothing but American Standard Code for Information Interchange. So this is one of the encoding scheme. So in this scheme, each character is represented as 7-bit code. And one more scheme is EBCDIC, which is nothing but extended binary coded decimal interchange code. In this scheme, each digit is represented by 8 bits. It means that in this scheme, there are 8 bits which are used to denote a character, or each character is represented by 8 bits in EBCDIC scheme. So, more detailed description of the binary notation and the coding scheme will be given in later parts of the modules. Next is about input unit. So, as we know, computers will accept the coded information through the input units, which will read the data. The most well-known input device is keyboard. Whenever the key is pressed, the corresponding letter or the digit is automatically translated into the corresponding binary code and is transmitted over a cable to either the memory or to the processor. Many other kinds of input devices are available, including joystick, trackball, mouse. Even a mouse is also considered as an input device which is used to accept some information. So these are used as the graphic input devices in conjunction with the display. Even microphones can also be used to capture the audio input, which is then sampled and converted into digital codes for storage and processing. Next is about memory unit. The function of memory unit is to store the programs and data. Basically, there are two classes of storage. One is primary storage, one more is the secondary storage. Here, primary storage is a fast memory that will operate at electronic speeds. The programs must be stored in a memory while they are being executed. The memory contains a large number of semiconductor storage cells. Each is capable of storing 1 bit of information. These cells are rarely read or written as individual cells, but instead are processed in a group of fixed size that are known as words. The memory is organized so that the contents of one word, which is containing n bits, it can be stored or retrieved in one basic operation. To provide easy access to any word in a memory, a distinct address is associated with each word location. So here distinct address is used to access any word which is stored in the memory. The addresses are nothing but the numbers which are identify the successive locations. A given word is accessed by specifying its address and issuing a control command which will start the storage or retrieval process. The number of bits in each word is often referred to as word length of the computer. Typical word length are in the range from 16 to 64 bits. So each word length is in the range from 16 to 64 bits. The capacity of memory is the one factor which will characterize the size of a computer. The small machines typically have only a few tens of millions of words, whereas the medium and large machines normally they have tens or hundreds of millions of words. Data are usually processed within a machine in units of words or multiple of words or parts of words. When the memory is accessed, usually only one word of data is read or written. Programs must be reside in the memory during the execution. The instructions and data can be written into memory or read out under the control of the processor. It is very essential to be able to access any word location in the memory as quick as possible. Memory in which any location can be reached in a short and fixed amount of time after specifying its address, which is called as random access memory, which is commonly known as RAM, that is random access memory. The time required to access one word is called as memory access time. This time is fixed and it is independent of the location of word being accessed. It typically ranges from few seconds to about 100 nanoseconds. Means the memory access time it will range from few nanoseconds to 100 nanoseconds for the modern RAM units. The memory of a computer is normally implemented as memory hierarchy of 3 or 4 levels of semiconductor RAM units with different speeds and different size. The small past RAM units are called as cache or cache memory. They are tightly coupled with a processor and often contained on the same integrated circuit chip to achieve high performance. The largest and slowest unit is referred to as main memory. So main memory is the largest and slowest memory unit, whereas cache memory is the smallest and fastest memory unit. We'll give a brief introduction of how the information is accessed in the memory hierarchy in the later chapters. Although the primary storage is very much essential, which tends to be very expensive, thus the additional cheaper memory, that is what the secondary storage is used when the large amount of data and many programs have to be stored, particularly for the information which is accessed infrequently. A wide selection of secondary storage devices is available, including magnetic disk and tapes and optical disk. So I'll discuss these devices in the later chapters. So basically magnetic disk, tapes and optical disk, that is your CD-ROMs, are considered as secondary storage, which is a very large amount and they are a bit cheaper as compared to the primary storage or the main memory. The next is about arithmetic and logic unit, which is most commonly known as ALU or ALU unit. The most computer operations are executed in this unit, that is in the arithmetic and logic unit of the processor. Of course, ALU is a part of processor here, so which will execute or which will process most of the computer operations. A typical example is, suppose the two numbers which are located in the memory are to be added. Then they are first brought into the processor and the actual addition is carried out by the ALU. Then the sum is stored in the memory, or it may be retained in the processor for the immediate use. Any other arithmetic or logic operations, for example, multiplication, division, or comparison of numbers, is initiated by bringing the required operands into the processor, where the operation is performed by ALU. When the operands are brought into the processor, they are brought, that is, they are stored in the high speed storage elements called registers, where each register can store one word of data. The access times to the registers are somewhat faster than the access times to the fastest cache unit in the memory hierarchy. It means that registers are bit faster than the cache memory or cache memory unit. The control and arithmetic and the logic units are many times faster than the other devices which are connected to the computer system. So, which will enable a single processor to control a number of external devices such as keyboards, display, magnetic and optical disc sensors, and the mechanical controllers. So, this is about ALO, that is arithmetic and logic. The next is about output unit and control unit. So, as you know, the output unit is the counterpart of the input unit. Means output unit is very much essential like input unit. Here, the function of output unit is to send the processed result to the outside world. The most familiar example of the output device is a printer. The printers which will employ the mechanical impact heads or the inkjet streams or the photocopying techniques as in the laser printers to perform the printing. It is possible to produce the printers which is capable of printing as many as 10,000 lines per minute. That is what the capacity range of a printer. which is capable of printing 10,000 lines per minute. This is a tremendous speed for the mechanical device, but it is still very slow as compared to the electronic speed of a processor unit. Some units such as graphic displays, which will provide both an output function and an input function. The dual role of such units is a reason for using the single name, that is IO unit, in most of the cases. The next is control unit. The memory, arithmetic and logic unit, and the input and the output units, which will store and process in the formation and the perform input and output operations. The operation of these units must be coordinated in several ways. This is the task of control unit. Basically, control unit will control and coordinate these units, that is memory unit, ALU unit, input and output units. The control unit is effectively like the nerve center, which will send the control signals to other units and sense their states. IO transfers, which will consist of input and output operations, which are controlled by the structure of IO programs that will identify the devices involved and the information to be transferred. However, an actual timing signals which will instruct the transfers that are generated by the control circuits. Timing signals are the signals which will determine when a given action is to take place. Data transfer between the processor and the memory are controlled by the control unit through the timing signals. It is reasonable to think of a control unit as a well-defined physically separate unit which will interact with the other parts of the machine. In practice, so this will exist, right? So most of the control circuitry is physically distributed through the machine. A large set of control lines or the wires which will carry the signals which is used for the timing and synchronization of events in all the units. The operations of a computer can be summarized as follows. The computer accepts the information in the form of programs and data to an input unit and stores it in the memory. Information stored in the memory is patched under the program control into an arithmetic and logic unit where it is processed. The processed information leave the computer to an output unit. All the activities inside the machine are directed by the control unit. So these are what the operations of a computer. Then the next very important thing is basic operational concept. As we stated in the previous section that the activity in a computer is governed by the instructions. To perform a given task, an appropriate program consists of a list of instructions is stored in the memory. Individual instructions are brought from the memory into the processor, which will execute the specified instructions. The data to be used as operands, they are also stored in the memory. Now consider a typical instruction add log a comma or not. This instruction will add the operand at memory location log a to the operand in a register in the processor or not and places the sum into the register or not. The original contents of the location log A are preserved where those of R naught are overwritten. This instruction requires the performance of several steps. First, the instruction is fetched from the memory into the processor. Next, the operand at lock A is fetched and it is added to the contents of R0. Finally, the resulting sum is stored in the register R0. The preceding add instruction combine a memory access operation with an allow operation. In many modern computers, these two types of operations are performed by separate instructions for performance reasons, which are explained in the later chapters. The effect of above instruction can be realized by two separate instruction sequence or two instruction sequence, that is load lock A comma R1, add R1 comma R0. So the this two instruction sequence or sequence of these two instruction is same as the previous instruction, that is add lock A comma R0. The first of these instructions transfer the content of memory location lock A into the processor register R1. Then the second instruction will add the contents of registers R1 and R0 and it will place the sum into R0. Here you have to note that this will destroy the former contents of the register R1 as well as those of R0, whereas the original content of memory location lock A are preserved. Only the content stored in memory location is preserved here, whereas it will destroy the contents of registers R0 and R1. Transfer between the memory and processor are started by sending the address of memory location to be accessed to the memory unit and issuing the appropriate control signals. The data are then transferred to or from the memory. So next important concept is connection between the processor and the memory. As you can see in this figure, the figure will show how the memory and processor can be connected. It will also show a few essential operational details of the processor that have not been discussed yet. The interconnection pattern for these components is not shown explicitly, since here we discuss only their functional characteristics. In addition to ALU and the control circuitry, the processor contain a number of registers used for several different purposes. So the first register is IR, that is the instruction register. It holds the instruction that is currently being executed. Then the output of IR is available to the control circuits, which will generate the timing signals that control the various processing elements involved in execution of an instruction. The next register is PC, that is a program counter. It is another specialized register. So this program counter keeps the track of execution of a program. It contains the memory address of the next instruction to be fetched and executed. During the execution of an instruction, the contents of PC are updated to the corresponding address of the next instruction to be executed. So it is very important to say that PC always point to the next instruction to be fetched from the memory. So apart from IR and PC, so the figure also show n general purpose registers are not true or n minus 1. So I will discuss these general purpose registers in later part. Finally, the two registers which will facilitate the communication with the memory, they are MAR and MDR. MAR is nothing but memory address register. MDR is memory data register. The MAR it hold the address of location to be accessed, and the MDR contain the data to be written into or read out from the address location. Now consider some typical operating steps. The program which will reside in the memory and usually get through the input unit. The execution of program starts when the PC is set to the first instruction of the program. The content of PC are referred to MAR and a read control signal is sent to the memory. After the time required to access the memory which will elapse, the address word is read out of the memory and it is loaded into MDR. Next, the contents of MDR are transferred to IR. At this point, the instruction is ready to be decoded and executed. If the instruction involves an operation to be performed by ALU, then it is necessary to obtain the required operands. If an operand resides in the memory, then it has to be fetched by sending its address to the MAR and initiating a read cycle. When the operand has been read from the memory into the MDR, then it is transferred from MDR to the ALU. After one or more operands are fetched in this way, the ALU can perform the desired operation. If the result of this operation is to be stored in the memory, then the result is sent to MDR. The address of location where the result to be stored is sent to the MAR and a write cycle is initiated. At some point during the execution of current instruction, the contents of the PC are incremented so that PC points to the next instruction to be executed. Thus, as soon as the execution of current instruction is completed, a new instruction fetch may be started. The normal execution of programs may be preempted if some device requires urgent servicing. Means we can avoid the normal execution of program if some device requires some urgent servicing. For example, a monitoring device in a computer controlled industrial process may detect a dangerous condition. In order to deal with this situation, that is to deal with this dangerous situation immediately, the normal execution of the current program must be interrupted. To do this, the device raises an interrupt signal. So by raising the interrupt signal, we can perform or we can violate the normal execution of the current program, or we can interrupt the normal execution of current program by raising an interrupt signal. Here, an interrupt is nothing but a request from an IO device for service by the processor. The processor provides the requested service by executing an appropriate interrupt service routine, that is ISR. Because such diversions may alter the internal state of the processor and its state must be saved in the memory locations before serving the interrupt. Normally, the contents of PC, the general registers, and some control information are stored in the memory. When the interrupt service routine is completed, the state of the processor is restored so that the interrupted program may continue further. The processor unit, which is shown in the previous figure, is usually implemented on a single VLSI chip with at least one of the cache unit of the memory hierarchy, which is contained on the same chip. Then the next important concept is the bus structures. So far, we have discussed the functions of individual parts of a computer. To perform an operational system, these parts must be connected in some organized way. There are many ways of doing this, means there are many ways of connecting these functional units of a computer. So we consider the simplest and the most common of these is a bus or bus structure. To achieve a reasonable speed of operation, a computer must be organized so that all its functional units can handle one full word of data at a given time. When a word of data is transferred between the functional units, all its bits are transferred in parallel, that is, the bits are transferred simultaneously over many wires or lines, one bit per line. A group of lines that will serve as a connecting path for several devices, which is called as bus. So bus is nothing but a group of lines which will serve as a connecting path for several devices. In addition to these lines that will carry the data, the bus must have lines for address and control purposes. Means bus is capable of carrying information, address as well as control signals. The simplest way to interconnect the functional units is to use a single bus. As you can see in this figure, where all the functional units are interconnected through a single bus, means all the units are connected to the single bus. Because the bus can be used for only one transfer at a time, so only two units can actively use the bus at any given time. Bus control lines are used here to arbitrate or to control the multiple requests for the use of single bus. The main virtue of single bus structure is its low cost and its flexibility for attaching peripheral devices or external devices. The systems that contain multiple buses which will achieve more concurrency in operations by allowing two or more transfer to be carried out at the same time. So this will lead to the better performance but at an increased cost. Here the device is connected to a bus which have a different speed of operations. Some electromechanical devices such as keyboards and printers are relatively very slow, whereas the other devices like magnetic or optical disc are considerably faster. The memory and processor units which will operate at electronic speed, making them the fastest parts of a computer. Because all the devices must communicate with each other over a single bus, an efficient transfer mechanism which is not constrained by the slow devices and that can be used to smooth out the different or the differences in the timing among the processor, memories, and external devices is very much necessary. Here, a common approach is to include buffer registers with the devices to hold the information during transfer. To illustrate this technique, consider the transfer of an encoded character from a processor to the character printer. The processor will send the character over the bus to the printer buffer. Since the buffer is an electronic register, So this will transfer relatively a little time. Once the buffer is loaded, the printer can start printing without further intervention by the processor. The bus and the processor are no longer needed and can be released for the other activity. The printer continues printing the character in its buffer and is not available for further transfer until this process is completed. Thus, the buffer registers smooth out the timing differences among the processor, memories, and I/O devices. They will prevent a high-speed processor from being locked to a slow I/O device during the sequence of data transfers. This will allow a processor to switch rapidly from one device to other device, interweaving its processing activity with the data transfer involving several I/O devices. So the next important concept is performance. This is what the most important measure of the performance of a computer is how quickly it can execute programs. The speed with which a computer executes programs is affected by the design of its hardware and its machine language instructions. Because the programs are usually written in high level language, the performance is also affected by compiler that will translate the programs into machine language. For the better performance, it is very much necessary to design the compiler, the machine instruction set, and the hardware in a coordinated way. And also, we have to concentrate on the design of instruction sets and the hardware. Here, the processor time to execute a program depends on the hardware involved in execution of individual machine instructions. As you can see in this figure, which include the cache memory as part of processor unit. Let us examine how the flow of program instructions and data between the memory and processor is performed. At the start of execution, all the program instructions and required data are stored in the main memory. As the execution proceeds, the instructions are fetched one by one over the bus into the processor and a copy of data is placed in the cache. When the execution of an instruction calls for the data located in the main memory, then the data are fetched and a copy of data is placed in the cache memory. Later, if the instruction or the data item is needed a second time, then it is directly fetched or it is directly read from the cache memory, which is faster access. The processor and a relatively small cache memory can be fabricated on a single integrated circuit chip. The internal speed of performing the basic steps of instruction processing on such chips is very high and it is considerably faster than the speed at which instruction and the data can be fetched from the main memory. A program will be executed faster if the moment of instruction and data between the main memory and processor is minimized, which is achieved by using the cache memory. For example, suppose a number of instructions are executed repeatedly over a short period of time as it happens in a program loop. If these instructions are available in the cache memory, then they can be fetched quickly during the period of repeated use. The same applies to the data that are used repeatedly. The design, operation, and performance issues for the main memory and cache memory will be discussed in later chapters. Then the processor clock. The processor circuits are controlled by timing signal, which is known as a clock. The clock defines the regular time intervals called as clock cycles. To execute a machine instruction, the processor divides the action to be performed into a sequence of basic steps, such as each step can be completed in one clock cycle. The length p of one clock cycle is an important parameter here that will affect the processor performance. Its inverse is clock rate, that is R equal to 1 by P, which is measured in cycles per second. Processors used in today's personal computers and workstations have clock rates which is in the range from few hundreds million to over a billion cycles per second. In standard electrical engineering technology, the term cycles per second is called as hertz, SZ. That is, hertz is nothing but cycles per second. The term million is denoted by a prefix mega, that is M. M means mega. And similarly, billion is denoted by prefix giga, G. So G means giga. Hence, 500 million cycles per second is usually abbreviated to 500 megahertz, and 1250 million cycles per second is abbreviated as 1.25 gigahertz. The corresponding clock periods are 2 and 0.8 nanoseconds respectively. Next important concept is basic performance equation. We now focus our attention on the processor time component of the total elapsed time. Let capital T be the processor time required to execute a program that has been prepared in some high level language. The compiler generates a machine language object program that corresponds to the source program. Assume that the complete execution of the program requires the execution of capital N machine language instructions. The number N is the actual number of instruction executions and is not necessarily equal to the number of machine instructions in the object program. Some instructions may be executed more than once, which is the case of instructions inside the program loop. Others may not be executed at all depending on the input data used. Suppose that the average number of basic steps needed to execute one machine instruction is capital S, where each basic step is completed in one clock cycle. If the clock rate is capital R cycles per second, then the program execution time is given by capital T equal to N into S divided by R. So this is what the program execution time, and it is also referred to as basic performance equation. Here the parameter T for an application program is much more important to the user than the individual value of the parameters N, S and capital R. To achieve high performance, the computer designer must seek ways to reduce the value of capital T. It means that reducing the values of N and S and increasing the value of R will reduce the value of capital T, that is program execution time. The value of capital N is reduced if the source program is compiled into few machine instructions. The value of capital S is reduced if the instructions have a small number of basic steps to perform or if the execution of instruction is overlapped. Using a higher frequency clock will increase the value of capital R, which means that the time required to complete a basic execution step is reduced. Here the parameters N, S and R, they are not independent. Changing one of these parameters may affect the other parameter. Introducing a new feature in the design of processor will lead to the improved performance only if the overall result is reduced the value of capital T. Next important concept is clock rate, that is capital R. There are two possibilities for increasing the clock rate capital R. First one is improving the IC technology, that is the integrated circuit technology. It makes the logic circuits faster which reduces the time needed to complete a basic step. This allows the clock period P to be reduced and clock rate R to be increased. The second possibility is reducing the amount of processing done in one basic step also makes it possible to reduce the clock period capital P. However, if the actions that have to be performed by an instruction remain the same, the number of basic steps needed may increase. Increasing the value of capital R that are entirely caused by the improvement in IC technology affect all the aspect of processor operation equally with the exception of the time it takes to access the main memory. In the presence of a cache, the percentage of accessing the main memory is small. Hence, much of the performance gain expected from the use of faster technology can be realized. The value of capital T will be reduced by some factor, that is at the same factor as R is increased, because S and N are not affected here. The impact on the performance of changing the way in which instructions are divided into basic step is more difficult to assess. That is about the clock rate. Next important concept is performance measurement. As you know, it is very difficult to compute capital T because computing the value of capital T is not a simple task here. T is nothing but the program execution time. So it is very difficult to compute this program execution time because the parameters such as the clock speed and the various architectural features are not reliable indicators of the expected performance. Because of these reasons, a computer community adopted the idea of measuring the computer performance using the benchmark programs. To make the comparison possible, standardized programs must be used. The performance measure is the time it takes a computer to execute a given benchmark. Initially, there are some attempts were made to create the artificial programs that could be used as standard benchmarks. But the synthetic programs do not properly predict the performance obtained when the real application programs are run. The accepted practice today is to use an agreed upon selection of real application programs to evaluate performance. A non-profit organization called as System Performance Evaluation Corporation, that is a SPEC. So this is one of the non-profit organization. So this organization selects and publish the representative application programs for different application domains together with the test result for many commercially available computers. For general purpose computers, a suite of benchmark programs was selected in 1989. It was modified somewhat and published in 1995 and again in 2000. The programs selected range from game playing, compiler and database applications to numerically intensive programs is astrophysics and quantum chemistry. In each case, the program is compiled for the computer under test and the running time on a real computer is measured. The same program is also compiled and run on one computer selected as a reference. A spec rating is computed as follows. Spec rating equal to running time on the reference computer divided by running time on the computer under test. Here the spec rating of 50 means that the computer is under test, that is 50. It means that spec rating of 50, it means that the computer under test is 50 times as fast as the other computer like UltraSpec 10 for the particular benchmark. The test is repeated for all the programs in the spec shoot and the geometric means of the result is computed. Let spec I be the rating of program I in the shoot. Then the overall spec rating of the computer is given by spec rating equal to pi, the range from I equal to 1 to n spec I raised to 1 divided by n, where n is the number of programs in the shoot. Because the actual execution time is measured, the spec rating is a measure of combined effect of all the factors affecting the performance, including the compiler, operating system, the processor and the memory of computer being tested.